Guys, what's up? Welcome to Insane Budget Photography, my web series about getting the highest possible quality at the lowest possible prices on your photography. So this is the Tokina 19-35. This is what we're going to be looking at today. So this was one of my first actual real decent lenses that I bought. My first Canon DSLR came with a super crap kit lens that took pictures that looked like you had covered the front of the lens with Vaseline or something. They were horrible. And this lens was what I purchased to improve that. So I was dealing with, of course, my Canon 10D crop sensor camera. And so I was, this was before EFS lenses. So my options were the old EF lenses at the time, and there was no 18-55 millimeter kit lens yet, which this is probably about the closest comparison to that. And so this lens was the Tokina 19-35. It's f3.5 to 4.5. Wide angle, ultra wide angle zoom lens, and this is really truly ultra wide angle on a full frame camera. But if you put it on a 1.6 crop camera like the 10D or most of what people shoot when they shoot DSLRs, it's kind of just a general wide angle. You're actually going from wide to normal. At 35 on a 1.6, it's just a little bit closer to normal. So this gave me a lot of options. This was wide angle to a really nice kind of normal to close. So I was going back and looking through my photos. Most of my favorite photos through the years have been taken with this particular lens. And which is kind of a shame because it's not a great lens. I mean, it's good for the price. I probably paid about $250 for it. So let's just kind of look over and see what this thing does. So this lens is got this really crazy, super thick, chunky zoom ring. It's of course autofocus. You got your switch to autofocus it. That's pretty much all it does. 77 millimeter filter ring, so you're probably not going to, unless you want to spend a lot of money, you're probably not going to get filters for this thing, which I never really use filters much with digital photography anyway. Build quality seems really good. It feels fairly, it's got a metal lens mount. It feels pretty solid. It's heavy, a lot heavier than your typical low-end lens. But I can't say a lot great about build quality. I hadn't had this lens for maybe 6 months, 8 months or so, and it started coming loose. Something came loose, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but that moves. And it looks pretty scary when it's on the camera because you can kind of pull the lens back from the camera. And I thought, well, this thing's total garbage now. But I kept using it and I really couldn't tell the difference. It didn't seem to affect the images. If you're shooting and you kind of pull the lens to the left, you could almost get a tiny bit of tilt shift effect since it pulls the front element slightly off of alignment with the back elements. Okay, so it's damaged. It's got a plasticky front filter mount, and I've bashed it up against something probably multiple times and broke it. Lens cap was lost a long time ago. I lose lens caps really fast, and I'm pretty terrible about remembering to keep my lens caps. So yeah, probably, I don't really see much in the way. I see a couple little scratches on the front lens, and like I said, I've been using this lens probably for 14 years or 15 years. It's been traveled all over with me, and I don't take great care of my stuff. A lot of times I just throw it in the back of the car. So sling it on my back and walk around the woods, bang it against trees and rocks and stuff. So that's probably what happened here. So for my money, you know, build quality, I mean, you know, it's 14 years old and it still works pretty much the same as it did when I got it. Okay, so how about quality? Well, coming from the total garbage kit lens, I can't remember even what I had. I had some kind of kit lens. All my pictures looked bad. When I got this, there was a big improvement in sharpness. I was pretty happy until I got to 50 millimeter 1.8, which was about $100. To this one, I think I spent about $250 on it. And realized what a truly sharp lens should look like. So I was a little disappointed, but I still kept using it because I needed wide angle. So I wanted today to, is this lens still getting? You can find these for about $80 or $90 on eBay used. Is this lens worth getting? Well, let's check out some comparisons and see how it does. In all honesty, I mainly use this lens when I was looking at focal lengths. I almost always used it at 2 different focal lengths. 19 for wide angle or 35 when I wanted to get closer. I'm sure there's pictures where I was at 22 or whatever, but for the most part 19 or 35. I could replace this with 2 prime lenses, but should I, or could I keep using this? Let's look at some examples. Hey, first off, let's compare the Tokina to the Canon 18-55 kit lens. So as you can see, they're pretty similar at 19, but the Canon seems to have warmer colors. The Tokina's colors look cooler at the same lighting, same everything. Sharpness is really pretty much the same at this. You can't hardly tell. If you wanted cooler colors, you'd probably be happier with the Tokina. The Canon is definitely letting a little bit more light through, and it's definitely warmer. So for our next comparison, let's look at the Rokinon 14mm prime lens against this Tokina zoom lens. The Tokina is at wide at 19 and Rokinon at 14, so the Rokinon had to be upsized a little bit, which means that it's definitely probably the sharper lens, because sharpness wise they're both equal, and that's with the Rokinon upsized 5mm focal length. So both at f4 color wise and stuff, I can't really tell a different sharpness and everything. So I don't know if that means that the Rokinon's really good or the Tokina's really good, but they're pretty much the same here. Our next comparison shows where the lens is definitely weaker. At 35mm, the Tokina definitely shows some weakness. It's much better open at 19 than it is focal length at 35. Images are darker. Both of these shot at f6, 100 shutter speed, 1/100, and pretty big difference in the amount of light that the Canon let through. Quite a bit brighter image. It's sharper, not a huge difference, but it's definitely the sharper image when you zoom in really close, and it's just a much more pleasing image overall. And one last comparison, let's check out the Tokina. This is not really very fair, but I put it up against the Canon 50mm. Both shot at f4. And check out the difference in sharpness here. The Canon is so much warmer color-wise. Huge difference in colors. Huge difference in sharpness. I mean, it's just a testament to how great the $100 Canon 50mm lens is. Blows it away. Now, of course, that's not a very fair comparison. Sharpness-wise, the Tokina had to be blown up quite a bit to be compared directly to the Canon, so still it's massively different. Alright, so who needs a lens like this? Honestly, it's nowhere near, in my mind, as good as the 18-55 Canon lens, which everybody probably has 2 or 3 of them laying around, since you get it with a lot of cameras. I actually have 2 of them. The one advantage to this is that you can mount it on a full frame, and it is really wide at 19 on a full frame. So if you were a person who needed a lens for full frame and for crop sensor, this is actually a pretty decent lens. And like I said, it's much better at 19 than it is at 35 in my mind. Sharpness wise, there's probably a good reason why I generally use this lens at 19 most of the time. That's where I found I liked it best. But I don't really see too much of a reason to buy this lens for any crop sensor camera. I can't imagine why you would want it. So Tokina, I guess I'll keep you for a while longer. I'm pretty happy to see it at 19. They held up fairly good. Alright guys, thanks for watching.